Hello and welcome to the Imperfect Image Podcast. I think this is episode 18, meaning we're getting close to 20, meaning nothing. That means absolutely nothing. Like 100 might be cool. 1,000 would be awesome, but having listeners would be even more cool than that. So, maybe we'll plan something special for number 20, although I think I said we would do that for 10, and it wasn't that special anyways. Ash couldn't be here today because she works in oil and gas, and that, I think, is just running out. I think the earth is almost done with oil and gas. Everybody hates it. Nobody likes it. I was just telling our guest today, Travis, that there's protesters like hanging themselves, not hanging themselves, but rappelling from a bridge in BC so that they can stop a tanker or something, so that people can't get oil and gas and Canada fails and we're all going to die. Or we're just going to become the US and Trump is going to be our savior. Everyone knows that. He's fucking great. He's the best. I'm just going to leave it at that. So we finally have a new guest. We tried Lauren. She didn't really want to talk very much. So we didn't have a guest for a long time. But we're going to start here with Travis. Hi, Travis.
Hey guys. Hi, Jordan.
He's really nervous, so this is fantastic. But I gave him a beer, and he's a little buzzed.
I'm feeling it. So hopefully everything I say makes sense to you guys.
So I am drinking Crystal Light today, because I said that I wasn't going to drink after the long weekend, which means I probably won't drink until tomorrow.
I was just going to say, how long will that last?
Well, I said if I don't bring anything to softball, I won't drink anything at softball. So we'll see how that goes. How did we meet? This is where we're going. I'm going to start asking you questions. We're interviewing.
All right.
How'd we meet?
Well, you want the full story?
No, not really. No, condensed would be great.
We met through a mutual friend, probably about 10 years ago.
Sounds about right.
It was at a soccer game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jordan had an eyebrow ring at this time, and also a mohawk. I'm not sure if your listeners know that, but
oh yeah.
And so we were watching the game, and I think you went up for a header or something.
Mm-hmm.
And your eyebrow piercing got caught on someone's shirt, and it ripped out, and Jordan was bleeding everywhere. And so our first hangout was at the hospital while we were waiting for him to get stitched up.
Good old Foothills Hospital. I spent a lot of time there in a couple of years, and I have not been to the hospital since.
I was going to say, I don't think you've...
No, I don't get sick. I don't really get injured anymore. Works for me.
It's because we're old now and we don't do as much,
Oh, God. I have no reason to get hurt anymore. Okay, well, that's nice. So that's how we met. I didn't think you were going to go with that story. I thought you were just going to be like, we met through friends. And then we were friends. So I'm going to ask you some tough questions.
All right.
And by that, I mean one tough question that I've found is a lot of fun to ask people because they don't have an answer. You ready?
I'm ready.
What will your legacy be? Think about the future, bitch.
Oh boy, the future. That's all I think about. My legacy, hey?
Yep.
Oh boy. Gotta think about that one.
Your tombstone. What does it say?
Travis was just a really nice guy. I don't know. I don't have anything.
That would be like 9 out of 10 people's answers.
Yeah.
Brian was a nice person. Susie, sweet. Cool. Okay, well, that was less exciting than I thought it was going to be. Since I know what we're going to talk about later, we might as well get a little bit into it right now and then veer completely away from it and then come back to it.
All right.
What do you do for work?
I work as a medical lab tech.
What does that actually mean?
What does it mean? Well, everyone thinks that we're the ones that draw the blood. So you go and you get your blood drawn and people test it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of what I do is all testing related. So I actually don't see the patients. I'm in the background and I test your chemistry samples and your hematology samples to tell you if you're healthy or not.
So we're all numbers to you.
Numbers, yes, absolutely.
We're not names. We're not real people. Our feelings don't matter.
No.
I'm just a blood smear. It's shit samples.
It's shit samples. And pee, too.
Oh, God. Shit and piss. It's like working in an old folks' home.
Oh, except it's worse because it's not old folks.
Right, yes, right. Okay, so this is always my question to people when they tell me about their jobs. Because you can tell me, like, I do blah, blah, blah. But I don't ever know what that actually means. So, what does a day actually look like?
Honestly, a big part of my day...
Smoke breaks.
Well, when I smoked, yes. Also, kids, don't smoke. It's bad for you.
Like there's kids listening.
We do a lot of maintenance for analyzers. So we work with analyzers that are, $300,000-$400,000 analyzers that require a ton of maintenance. And so a big part of my day is actually doing maintenance on them for the next day. So basically, that's what I do a large part of the day, and then throughout that day we do testing.
So you do testing to make sure that the testing is testing right.
That is right.
Fuck yeah.
Correct.
Glad we got that. Okay, switching off that topic. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh boy.
Or give me a range. Like, I can't give people a favorite movie, but I can give them 3 or 4.
It's hard. I can give you my first few favorite. Interview with the Vampire.
Good choice. Do you ever read the book?
I read the book. The book's way better than the movie.
Oh yeah, as usually.
Yeah. Oh boy. Star Trek movies?
Any of them?
First Contact?
What's the worst one?
Oof. Any of the first few ones?
What's that? Anything with Kirk?
Anything with Kirk, yes.
Fair enough.
Yes, and also as a Star Trek fan, a big Star Trek fan.
Yep.
I have never watched the original series.
That's probably a good choice.
It looks pretty sad. And
Even when you look back at comic books, you look at the art that they started with, and you go, thank God the 90s came around. Because, fuck, it's like they had no talent, or they didn't try.
Maybe both.
Maybe they just couldn't... I think they couldn't conceptualize the stuff that we can today. Because there's no precursor for it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the intelligent... Fuck, being sober makes me smart. Shit. I wonder if Lauren met me when I was sober.
I don't believe she did. At least from the last story that I heard.
No, I wasn't sober. No.
Tequila was involved,
back.
I think.
Oh, God. Tequila was it?
Or wine. Or both.
No, she didn't like wine when we met. I wrecked her.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Favorite music? Band, style, artist?
I don't really have a favorite band, per se. Actually, yeah, I do. So if I talk about rock band, I really love Our Lady Peace.
Right.
I've seen them a ton in concert.
Right.
And as far as music style, I like EDM.
That sounds like a drug.
It does sound like a drug. In fact, most people are probably on drugs while they're listening to EDM.
Right.
Not me, though, mind you.
No,
I'm a good boy.
No, you don't do any drugs.
No drugs.
I mean, what are drugs, really?
Good question. Even food has technically drugs in it, right?
Sugar's a drug. I just drank a shit ton of coffee. That's
Sugar
a drug.
is a drug, actually.
I might as well. If I was smoking my coffee, people wouldn't approve of it.
No.
However, apparently drinking it in the morning is okay.
Yes, along with everyone else in the world.
And I am working very hard to make people understand that drinking beer in the morning completely realistic. It's so tasty.
It depends on what you have to do, though.
I have nothing to do in life.
Come on.
Okay, I try to pretend I have nothing to do in life. I'm actually relatively important. What's your favorite TV show? I think we probably already covered that.
Definitely Star Trek.
Star Trek.
And actually, for anybody that has seen Star Trek before, the new series, Discovery, the second half, was the best Star Trek ever.
Because it started out iffy, didn't it?
It was really kind of... They didn't know what they were doing. It was sort of... The characters didn't meld together.
A lot of people had problems with the Klingons.
Yeah, over the course of Star Trek, though, Klingons have changed from humanoid-like to what you see, I guess, if you know Worf on The Next Generation, to now. So they've changed so many different times. And
You can't do the same thing over and over again.
no, and if anything, now they look like real aliens, not like humans dressed up like Klingons,
And again, with the precursors, there's been enough Star Trek series with Klingons that now we don't need it to be a humanoid anymore.
No, exactly. And we probably are more realistic now that we know that that's not how they would be out there in the universe.
Yeah. And if anything, it seemed like this show was trying to make the whole thing seem more realistic. Does that sound...
Yeah, they did. I can't give any spoilers just because a lot of people probably haven't seen it because it was on CBS All Access.
Right.
So you had to have access to CBS.
Fucking...
Or, an internet connection and download it. Of course, that's illegal, so that doesn't happen, right?
We only do legal things.
Legal things only.
Especially on October 17th.
October 17th. What's happening then?
Canada is legalizing marijuana.
Right, that's right. So, yes, to the whole world, finally.
Second nation in the world.
Yeah, second to Uruguay, is it?
Yeah. Portugal, I think it was. Now I'm confused.
Yeah, me too.
Anyways, I always say Portugal. Maybe I was wrong, though. But there was one that was just like, drugs are legal. Fuck it. We don't want to fight them anymore.
Did they legalize all drugs?
They're just legal. Or decriminalized or whatever. So it's like if you snort coke in front of a cop, they just wave their finger at you. Like, nah.
In some ways, there's theories that talk about decriminalization of drugs actually being a positive thing for society because people aren't afraid of getting help when they need it.
No.
Versus, going to somebody and saying, I have a problem with something that's illegal.
Yeah.
No one wants to admit that, right?
No.
So I think that is one thing that would be a positive. And it stops at least some of the illegal drug trade.
Good way to put it. Some of. On the flip side, not that I think that it's a bad idea. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that think communism works. And sorry, North Korea, it doesn't.
No.
Although that's like that's not even communism. That's fucking...
I don't even know what
that...
You know where communism...
Bad example.
No, you know what? I'm going to sound terrible if I say communism can work.
Okay.
Because in theory, communism to me seems like a wonderful idea.
Of course, it sounds great.
It's just that you have to take away a lot of things that us as humans are in order to be in a communist society and be okay with that.
It's like stopping all of the oil transport to BC. In theory, I'm all about it. Fucking, the environment's great. Let's save it. We gotta be smart about it, though.
Yeah, I think people don't look at reality sometimes.
No.
And it's easy to stand on a pedestal from afar and say, this is bad and that's bad and that doesn't work. But, let's not open the can of worms about oil and gas because I love oil. I love the idea of being an environmentalist, but I also love my car and I like all of the creature comforts that we've become accustomed to.
And my point, we don't have to go too crazy into it, is that if we are to get rid of the oil and gas industry, chances are we will need the oil and gas industry to build the things that we will then one day not need the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely.
It's just my thought. Someone please prove me wrong. I would love that. And we can fucking move on with solar panels. It'll be great. One day. Anyways, we're 14 minutes into this and have really talked about not much in terms of what we've meant to talk about. So I'm gonna do this, okay? In the broadcasting business that I'm not a part of, we call this a segue. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so you're gonna tell us about all of your tattoos from the earliest to the latest. You see what I'm doing here?
I do. Very,
fucking
very
smart. Eh? First one,
and I only have a couple. So my first one was a small maple leaf.
Next one.
I have one across my back in handwriting that says "Live long and prosper."
Yes. That's a Star Trek reference if people just don't know anything.
That's right. Most people would know that.
Number 3, and the latest.
And the greatest.
The fucking biggest, for sure.
It was probably about a 10 to 12 hour tattoo, I'm thinking. And so basically I did a scene, kind of a space scene, somewhat realistic as well, where I have my favorite planet, which is Saturn, and my favorite moon in the solar system, Titan, which is moon of Saturn.
I was going to say Jupiter.
Well, everyone thinks Jupiter
Good
because
thing I don't...
Jupiter's big and has lots of moons. So does Saturn, I guess.
Size doesn't matter, even in planets. Come on, people.
Wait, where did you hear that?
In astronomy.
And then a galaxy and a nebula. And yeah, so that's me to a T. Big nerd, and I tattooed it all over my body.
So big fucking astronomy nerd is what we're going with.
That is right.
So Travis came in today for Trav's Science Talk, but I feel like we could come up with a better name.
We should.
Do you have a better name? And if not, let's just waste 10 minutes going on about it.
Let's see. What could we...
Because it can be any science. Doesn't have to be astronomy.
No.
We got biology, chemistry...
And I like all science, so...
Yeah. Trav's Science Whore Talk. Because we'll talk about fucking any science. We might even talk about fucking science.
There is science, yes.
There
Hormones
is science in
and
fucking...
all sorts of things. I got nothing right
Trav's
now.
Science Talk it is.
How about this?
Yeah.
Next time, if you do have me back...
If you don't blow it by the end.
Too late, I'm already nervous. You can't see me, but I'm like completely beet red.
And I'm colorblind, so I can't tell.
So instead I just look green instead of red.
Oh, that's not how it works. There we go. Next Science Talk will be Jordan's Science Talk about what colorblindness actually is.
Because nobody probably knows.
No, I don't even know. It makes sense. My eyes don't work.
Well, next time we'll come back. I'll come back with one, and we'll have a concrete title for my
I love
Science
it.
Talk.
That's a great idea. Okay, so you sent me some notes. We'll try to run through some of them ish in order, maybe. And if we get completely off task, then deal with it. It's my podcast.
I'll deal with it. You might just have to give me a minute to look up my answers. Actually, I should probably know most of these things since I'm the science advisor, and I just made quotes with my hands. So.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about podcasting. No one can see that we're naked right now. When we were talking about size doesn't matter, it's because it's cold in here.
Very.
Okay, so the big thing you wanted to talk about, and I'm allowing you to talk about because I'm such a nice host, is the James Webb Space Telescope. Yes?
That is right.
Who's it named after? Who's James Webb?
Well, James Webb is a scientist who pushed for quite a lot of changes to space technology in the 60s or 70s.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that because I can't remember exactly.
In a decade of yonder year.
Absolutely. And originally it wasn't to be named James Webb Space Telescope. I believe it was just Next Generation Space Telescope.
That's a fucking... You can't do that. That's copyrighted.
The Next Generation
Next
Space
Generation?
Telescope?
No. Well, Star Trek Next Generation.
Yes, yeah, but they did.
I can't call this the Star Trek Next Generation podcast.
Well, you could. It's just someone might sue you.
Yeah, it's the same reason I took the music off the intros. I don't have money to get sued for.
Yeah,
I'll just end up in jail.
Well, then we'll call it... What are we going to call it?
How about we call it the James Webb Space Telescope? I like the ring of that.
Which is probably why they changed the name.
They just pulled it out of a hat. We're going to call it the Neil deGrasse... No, not the Neil deGrasse... the Bill Nye... No, not the Bill Nye.
Well, they should call it the Bill Nye. The next one. The next space telescope.
I have my issues with Bill Nye lately.
Do you?
Have you seen his Netflix show?
Oh, yeah, Bill Nye Saves the World.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think?
I didn't watch that much of it, so I think it's geared more towards adults than it was
Very much.
the old show.
Yeah.
His
You
old
know what?
show.
I think what it's geared to is the people who have grown up watching him. It's a nostalgia thing. Like the
Right.
whole internet and everything is a nostalgia factory.
Yeah.
My only issue with it, because I think it's a great show, and they're very much pushing environmentalism, right? They're saying, okay, we have the science, we can do better. I'm all for that, as we already said. My issue was when he has his little panel, he always has one person who's in the opposition, or at least who's going to play devil's advocate, and then the other three of them basically fucking gang rape him with their words and don't give him a... They make him sound like a complete fucking idiot.
Well, what is his response to that?
It depends who it is. Like, I can maybe think of two that fought back a little bit, and they just get cut off. And I mean, it's Bill Nye's show, so they'll just, like, edit them out.
Right.
It irked me. You know, if you're gonna bring someone on and ask for their opinion, let them speak their mind, and just leave it at that.
Right.
Would be my way of doing it anyways. And since this is my show, it's the right way to do it.
Well, and let's be honest, isn't the whole point of science to be asked questions?
Yeah.
Or if you to be able to defend your position?
Yeah.
So if he can't defend his position, then maybe his position is wrong.
And if you can't defend it as well as accepting that other people's opinions are valid, whether they match up with the facts or not, you can teach them, that's fine. But you can't just flat out shut them down.
No.
He's supposed to be an educator, right? So if you're trying to educate people, maybe educate them in the idea of not just beating someone's words out of their mouth.
And you know, one thing I had heard, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently Bill Nye had said, and don't quote me on this, but I think I had heard that he said that anybody who denies climate change should go to jail.
Yeah, I could believe that. He's adamant.
And you know what? I do believe in climate change.
Yes.
I don't believe that naysayers should go to jail because...
In almost, I'm not going to think too hard about it, but in almost any circumstance, whether you agree or disagree, that's not jail worthy. Unless
No.
it's like, I disagree and rape is the best. Well, even to that point, if they never went out and did it, fuck it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there.
Wouldn't listen to it. I might cut their tongue out, but then I'd go to jail, and I cannot deal with jail.
No.
I am fragile.
You're too pretty to go to jail.
And I'm not too pretty for many things, but jail is one.
Jail, yeah.
Okay, so we haven't actually got to anything on this list.
Well, we did.
Oh, that's good.
You asked me about
The name.
who is James Webb.
The first note on the list. And we've covered another 9 minutes on it. Okay, so I'm going to let you just yammer for just a little bit here, okay? You can go on whatever tangent you want on a space telescope.
Sure, yeah, of course. I mean, I guess I just wanted to quickly touch base with everyone just to give you an idea about how much has changed from when the first telescope was used for astronomical reasons, which was in 1610, 408 years ago, which was an incredibly long period of time.
Was that Galileo?
No, so...
Ooh, fun. I'm learning something.
Well, Galileo was the first to use a telescope for looking at the sky and for astronomy.
Okay.
But the first telescopes were actually created about a year or two before that. Now, I don't know who it is specifically. I didn't write it down. But he wasn't... People think he was the first person to use a telescope. He didn't actually create the telescope, but he was the first person to use it for astronomy.
Okay.
So, little unknown fact.
So, okay, I'm just going to summarize. He didn't invent it.
Right.
But he was the first one to point it at the sky and go, ooh, things.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And Galileo also was the first person to discover the 4 largest moons of Jupiter as well with that early telescope, which would have been probably a cheaper, less accurate telescope than your common department store telescope that every child has.
Wild, hey?
It's pretty crazy, but you can see that in 400 years, a lot has changed. Just as far as things being cheap and easy, and we understand a lot more now.
Well, and the materials and that.
That's a big thing.
We're fucking good at manufacturing. Thanks, China.
That's right. And when we talk more about James Webb specifically and how NASA has created technology, not just used old technology, but created brand new technologies that never existed.
Well, I know you have this further down, but it's one of my favorite things about exploring past our Earth is that because we have to develop new technologies to do that, those technologies end up helping with things on Earth. Like, you've got a thing here about cancer research.
Yes. Now, not to go on a huge tangent about cancer research, but I was reading the other day that cancer cells, when they're taken out of the body on Earth, don't act as though they're in the body. So it's hard to research because drugs don't work properly or the same as they would if you were to be taking a drug or chemotherapy or whatever. And so on the space station, because of zero gravity, they can take cancer cells and they act the same as they do in a human body.
Oh, shit.
So, of course, it's easier to research things outside of the body than they are inside.
Yeah.
So we just take the cells out and we can target drugs that will work specifically for those cancers. And that is something that you'll see in the future.
So the next wave of cancer research is very likely to be done in space, or the best new wave.
I'd say the best new wave.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't look into that much about cancer research and stuff, but that was just a fact I'd heard.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Look,
you're welcome.
Interesting facts with Travis.
I have a few facts. I always say that I don't know about a lot about a single thing. I know a fair amount about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Kind of like, broadens your horizons.
Yeah, it's like I'm not that good at one sport, but I seem to be pretty freaking good at a whole bunch of them.
You are good at sports, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's my claim to fame. And yet, golf. Okay, what else do we got here? Okay. James Webb Space Telescope. Now that we're back, full circle, back onto track.
Right. I was talking a little bit about the history.
Yeah.
So skip from 1610 to 1946, and a gentleman named Lyman Spitzer.
Heard the name.
And many people might recognize his name just in passing, hearing about different telescopes. There's one that will be made, and I can talk more about that later, but one is currently being built right now along with the James Webb that will work together with the James Webb that is named after Spitzer, and it's... sorry, I lied. Spitzer telescope has already been out there, so, he's a famous astronomer, but he proposed the need for a new space telescope. Or a space telescope, I should say, because in 46, there was no such thing as a space telescope. Nobody could even comprehend putting a telescope into space.
So the Hubble telescope would be a space telescope. Is that the first one?
That was the first space telescope, yes.
So the difference between a space telescope and a fucking telescope is it's literally off Earth.
That's right.
In space.
That is correct. Yes.
So is this something that is opposite the International Space Station, or is it attached to?
It's opposite. It's not attached.
So it's its own satellite.
Correct. Yeah.
God, I am fucking smart.
You're so
Space
smart.
talk with Jordan.
I'm impressed. See, he doesn't even need me here. You don't need me here. You can just do it all on your own.
I hate talking to myself. I get sad. Every time I do a podcast myself, I end up crying.
Okay, well then just have me here, even though I'm probably, not making any sense, but...
The best thing about a guest is that you can get onto different topics.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just me spewing my own shit. Nobody needs my shit spewed.
Well, let's spew our shit together.
That is the best idea for a porn I've ever heard.
Oh, God. Hasn't there been pornos like that already?
I've never watched them, so I can't guarantee they exist.
No comment.
Science. Okay,
Science.
so James Webb is off of Earth, is what we're saying.
James Webb will be
off of Earth.
There's a big difference between James Webb and the Hubble. James Webb is Hubble's successor, but it doesn't mean that Hubble's not going to be used anymore.
It'll still be functional.
Absolutely. And Hubble's been in space for 28 years.
Yeah.
And
that's as long as Lauren's been alive.
That's actually true.
1990?
1990, yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. Oh, right. So you had asked about, what did you say?
I don't remember.
Oh, right. Hubble is 500 kilometers from the Earth's surface. The James Webb Space Telescope is actually going to be 1.5 million kilometers from Earth.
Hold on. First number was 500 kilometers?
500 kilometers.
And the next one is...
1.5 million.
That's like the edge of the galaxy. The gallery. What an idiot.
Well, the thing about space is that it's big, and 1.5 million kilometers sounds incredibly far, and it is pretty far. The moon is 380,000 kilometers away. So to give you an idea, James Webb is over four times the distance from Earth to the moon. So the reason being, many reasons, and it gets into the reason for James Webb in the first place, is that James Webb needs to be kept incredibly cold. In fact, it needs to be under minus 220 degrees Celsius. The reason for that is because James Webb is looking at heat or infrared light.
Right.
And in order for it to be cold, it can't be near Earth because Earth radiates a ton of heat.
Well, we're on Earth.
Right.
And we are hot as hell.
Hey, it just takes the two of us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So they need to send James Webb way out there.
Get as far away from this podcast as you can. That doesn't go for the listeners, though. You should stay. Listen to the rest. It's great.
It is great. I promise you.
You're getting comfy. Your lip's not quivering anymore.
No, and it was. You're right. Oh, you're looking at me too much. Stop looking at me.
I started out staring at the computer, making sure that the audio levels were good. And then when I looked over, I was like, oh, he's adorable. He's so scared. That's okay. I've had 18 episodes to get comfortable with being an idiot.
Exactly. Just give me a break, guys. I promise. It'll get better.
On the 18th Trav Science Talk, it's going to be just wicked. This is going very well. Okay, so I just sat here for the last 3 minutes with my mouth gaping wide open because I don't understand the numbers that you're putting out there. Like, I can't comprehend it. That's the thing I find tough about space.
Right.
And I think that's not just me, and that's not just when people listen to this and they're going, how many miles? It's nearly impossible to actually comprehend. And that's why we just have the numbers.
Right. I can't... It's almost impossible to even give you an example to make it make sense.
Yeah, when you say 4 times the distance that the moon is from the Earth, that's the farthest thing that we've ever been to.
The furthest that any human being has ever stood foot on? Yeah. And it seems crazy that we've only gone that far.
So here's another one. When they send the James Webb out, do you know how they're getting it out there?
Yeah, so...
On the backs of unicorns!
If you go back to the Hubble when it was launched in 1990, in the 90s, the space shuttles were still in use.
Yeah.
And Hubble was made with a 2.5 meter primary mirror, and so it could actually fit right inside of the shuttle.
Okay.
The problem with James Webb is that it needs to be bigger, and it is. It's a 6.5 meter primary mirror.
Okay.
So what they had to do was fold it inside of the spacecraft.
Yeah.
Because they can't build it small. They can't make it small, so they need to find a way to put it out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't build stuff in space.
Yeah.
Which would be the easiest way to build a space telescope, if we could do that. But unfortunately, we just can't manufacture things in space the way we can here.
Right, because you'd have to have like 4 people working on it, and that's not going to work.
Take way too long.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the space station. It's been there for, what? I can't even think how long the space station's been out. At least 10 years.
Yeah.
And it took so long to build that thing. So basically, they're trying to find ways to to fit a big telescope into a rocket. And they figured it out. And so James Webb has 18 primary mirror segments that are hexagonal in shape. And when you put them together, they make generally a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so those will fold up, as well as its giant sun shield. And basically, in order to keep it as cold as it needs to be, it has a giant sun shield the size of probably, I would say, like a big tennis court. And
how big is the fucking James Webb? Like, how big is this thing supposed to be?
Well, what do you mean? Are you talking...
Okay, I can somewhat grasp how big a space shuttle is.
Right. So the James Webb, when it's unfolded, would be much larger than the space shuttle.
So it is an entire transformer folded up into a space shuttle.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it
is.
Okay, so then I'm going to go on this. Blast off. Boom, off it goes. It's sent in a direction. It gets out there. We're never getting the space shuttle back.
No.
Is it something that unfolds out of the space shuttle and detaches?
Yeah, so after launch, it'll take about a month to fly to its location, like we said, 1.5 million kilometers away.
Jesus Christ, that's a long ways to go in a month.
It is a long way. But, I mean, alternatively, it takes us about 3 days to get to the moon.
Yes.
So it's going to take less time because it doesn't have fuel to stop.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't... Unfortunately, whatever we send out there has to work. And it has to work perfectly.
That was a question I was going to ask, but I won't ask it now.
We cannot go there and service this telescope.
No.
Hubble has had 5 servicing missions.
Because how far out is Hubble compared to the moon?
500 kilometers versus 380,000. I believe that Hubble is a little bit lower than the space station.
Right.
So you can see that, you can get to the space station in a few hours.
What I'm thinking right now is Hubble, compared to where the moon is like having ice cream in your freezer. When you have that late night craving, you're realistically not going to go all the way to Dairy Queen at like 2 a.m.
No.
But if it's in your freezer, you can do it. And you could do it 3 times in that night.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it.
Cute. Thank you.
See, I only see things in a science mind, and you can help our listeners and me see it in a much more simple way.
I'm simple. Thanks,
No,
Travis.
not that I'm calling you simple at all. You understand a lot of what I'm saying.
Oh, I get it. I'm just doing this for everybody else.
For all 3 listeners.
All 4 listeners.
4 listeners.
Maybe 6. I don't know.
Oh boy, I'll get a few people to listen.
Yes, this is... So the secret behind having guests is that maybe people they know will listen to them, and then they'll think I'm funny, and then they'll be like, who's that Ashley chick they keep talking about? And now we have listeners. That guy seems to talk about dicks a lot. I want to listen to that podcast. And if this one he's not drunk in, what are the ones like when he is drinking?
I'd also like to see the ones when you're not drinking. Oh wait, like right now.
Right now, Crystal Light. This podcast brought to you by Crystal Light, and Trav had one Alberta Genuine Draft.
Yes, it helped ease me into this whole process a little bit. Mm-hmm. Although I'm feeling a little inebriated.
It's... What does John call them? Panty solvents?
Panty solvents.
Those twisted iced teas.
But they are,
yeah,
right?
5 of those, your panties will just dissolve.
And if you don't have panties on, at least everything else will be gone. So.
You know what I always picture is that, have you seen Bruce Almighty?
Yes.
There's a scene where he's getting ready to have sex with Jennifer Aniston, and he just holds his hands up to his chest and then extends out, and all his clothes just disappear.
Yes. That was
Twisted
so
iced
funny.
tea and Pentagon. Okay, so James Webb cannot fail because it is way the fuck out there, and we're never getting there.
Well, not in the near future. Right now we don't have any spacecraft that can get us there.
No.
At least not humans. We could easily send a craft and it could work on it without a human, but unfortunately it's too complicated for a robot to be able to fix it if need be.
They can barely even dig stuff off of Mars.
Right.
Because it's
just too hard.
It takes too long to get information to and from.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that actually is one reason why humans, and this is a whole nother conversation, but...
Is this the next podcast?
That is why humans on Mars are going to be more beneficial than robots.
Yes.
But again, that's another podcast for another time.
Listen in next week on Trav's Science Talk.
Yeah, we do need to fix that, because Trav's Science Talk just doesn't sound very interesting. Yeah, it does. It sounds interesting. It doesn't grab you,
but
know?
like Bill Nye the Science Guy rhymes. It rhymes people. Travis's Abysses.
Oh God.
Flavises.
I promise I'll come up with one for next time. So one of the problems with James Webb is that because, like I say, it's so complicated. Oh yes, Jordan has a question.
Trav's Labs.
Oh, yes! Let's go with it. I like it.
Trav's Labs.
Trav's Labs. But we're not doing any lab work.
Trav's Science Lab?
Okay, Trav Science Lab. I like it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I have been listening. I'm multitasking, which is also something you can do when not drinking. Okay, talk about something.
What was I saying?
I don't know anymore.
So at its orbit where it is, again, like you said, it's so far. There is, eventually humans will be able to get there. The thing is that will it happen in the 10-year lifespan of James Webb? Probably not. And so James Webb has been given a 5-year mission plus 6 months for calibration. So really, it has enough fuel only to last and keep its location for 10 years.
And then it drifts?
After that, it's dead, and it just drifts in space forever.
Wow. That's kind of depressing.
Well, and it's depressing because one of the things that people complain a lot about is the fact that James Webb, and, you think about a telescope. That telescope that you look at in your backyard costs you $100, but James Webb costs the American taxpayers $10 billion.
Okay, this is about to be really good radio, because my next point on this was going to be the common question here: why spend so much on space telescopes? So this is, we're feeding right into this stuff. It's like we planned this out.
Yeah, right? I know, exactly. You'd think I've been, stressing over it for the last 3 days.
That's not the case. This is just completely off the cuff.
Is there a good answer for that? Maybe not. Some people wouldn't agree with my answer, but I think part of humanity's quest in this universe is to be able to understand why we're here, how things evolved, and the bigger questions. Is there more out there? And in order to do that, it costs a lot of money. One of the things that somebody told me, and I think this was actually probably John, and he said to me that we've already picked the low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. So as a science, as scientists, everything that we understand now was fairly simple to understand. A lot of it was accidental. But now, when we ask those big questions, it costs big money, and it costs big machines, and it takes, like we said, NASA created new technology for it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't come cheap.
No.
So everything from every single bolt and every single piece of metal or plastic or anything in there is created from scratch.
Well, and the time for people, you're paying employees, you're not just...
That's right.
Science isn't necessary. It is, but it's also not a charity, right? Like science, yes, we would love to just be able to do science for the sake of science, but this is going to shock people.
That's right.
Scientists need to eat as well.
Absolutely. And, one of the things is that I had read a quote online, and it's from the Aerospace Industries Association of Canada. They reported that in 2017, there was 190,000 jobs in Canada in the aerospace industry. And that added $25 billion to the Canadian GDP.
Well, I'm even thinking, everything is connected, right? We're not just talking about the aerospace industry or the, would just say general science. We're not just talking about general science because, like I was just saying, those people have to eat. Those people have to put their kids in daycare. Like, it's all connected.
That's right.
These jobs are just as important as any other job because they also contribute to other jobs.
Well, and if those people didn't have a job in aerospace, they might not have a job at all.
Yeah. Well, because they're all fucking nerds, and no one wants to hire nerds. They want to hire jocks. Everyone knows that.
Right? Exactly.
Except everyone wants to hire nerds and not jocks because...
But everybody secretly loves nerds.
Yeah. Well, Lauren married one. Joke's on you, babe. Okay, so you were saying 190,000 jobs that added $25 billion to the Canadian gross domestic product. That's a big number.
Right.
Not quite as big a number as how far this fucking telescope's going out, but still a big number. Many zeros.
And, like, you know, it's all fine for people to not... I understand that it sounds like that $10 billion could be used to feed people. But it is, like you said, it is being used to feed people. It's being used to feed the 190,000 people in Canada that are involved in aerospace. Not to mention how many... potentially millions of people in the States that benefit from aerospace industry.
Yeah.
And oh boy, where was I going with that?
So how much pot have you smoked in your life? Brain cells are dead.
Yeah, no comment?
No comment. October 17th we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh! Maybe that's the episode where we'll get Ash baked out of her mind and try to do a podcast.
Oh, I love it.
Taking it off work. Perfect. I've already planned I'm taking that off work.
Do you know what day it is?
Nope.
Weekday?
Let's find out.
They should make it a weekend.
You keep talking and I'm on it. Google, month, flip, Wednesday.
Okay. It's a Wednesday. I'm taking it off.
And from what I've heard, you don't get the same hangover as alcohol, so we could all still go to work the next day.
This is also what I've heard, yes.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Apparently, the government also has heard that because they believe that it's just as good for you as alcohol.
Yes.
Not good for you, that's the wrong way to put it, but it's just as bad for you.
Equally as bad for you as alcohol. Potentially far less bad than alcohol.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything about that.
One of the problems is when you talk about a substance that's illegal, no one can do research. So we know a lot about alcohol. We don't know a lot about marijuana, but we will know a lot once they can just do all their free research they want.
Are we back to talking about science?
We're back to science again. Yes.
Welcome back to Trav's Science Lab. But that's, you know what, that ties into this whole thing too, where I was going to say again, restating that not only are we, say, building up the economy with $25 billion from this research, those pieces of research go on to other things. Like we were talking about the cancer thing.
That's right.
One thing I'm really interested in is the effect on the human body being in space. You can't do that unless you're in space. So unless we send people to the International Space Station, or potentially way farther out than that, we can't study the effects. We can theoretically talk about it, but there's always something you won't account for. Like, how would you know about cancer cells in space, in zero gravity, unless you actually did it one day?
That's right.
Right?
And there was a chance that it wouldn't have made a difference.
No.
But the fact that it did is something, like you said, we would never have known. And let's face it, cancer is on everyone's mind. Everyone thinks about it. What? Everyone will get it.
Are you saying there's cancer in my mind? Your mind is
not
cancer.
Yet, not yet.
You fucking try to make fucking people laugh all the time, you cancerous dick. That was very aggressive. Okay, so why? you've got a point here that says mission goals. Why are we putting all of this money in? Regardless to all the other side things that we talked about.
Right.
What is the actual goal?
Well, the primary goal of the James Webb is, and there's lots of things that it's going to be able to do, things that we don't even know.
Well,
so they built the telescope.
It's a transformer, and that's fucking cool.
Well, and as long as it transforms properly, we're all happy.
Is Mark Wahlberg helping out at all? Because he seems to not want to let that franchise go.
I do think that they did use him as a consultant.
They probably did, hey? Like, it's going to be kind of like, what was that? Oh, this, I don't want to say ship, but that we sent out that has that disc on it of, like, human history, and there were a couple of songs in that thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think probably you might be talking about the Viking.
That sounds
Not
right.
Viking.
I want to say Horizon?
Well, there was probably many different ones. New Horizons.
We'll just call it whatever we want to call it.
But we've put out there
Yeah.
a lot of information about ourselves.
Yeah, and I remember there was something, it has a recording, I think, I want to say it had a Beatles recording on it. I'm picturing that this next one, the Transformer, just has Mark Wahlberg being like, "Sup, aliens?"
Do we really want Mark Wahlberg as our first contact?
I've heard him on some podcasts, and yes, I can fully say yes, that's what I want.
All right.
Previously, I would have said, shit, I'm going to forget now. Planet Earth? No, not Planet Earth guy. Not David Attenborough. Well, that would be sweet, though. Fuck. Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but he grabs women and stuff now.
Ugh. Let's not get started about that whole thing.
That's another one.
Who hasn't grabbed women that's in Hollywood? Not that I'm saying that's okay.
Maybe that's why I'm not in Hollywood. I'm not grabby enough.
Yeah.
I don't just, go for the prize.
So you gotta go for the prize.
I think
but now
about
you're
it.
married, so...
Yeah. Oh, no. I only grab her. Okay, so...
You asked the goal, the mission goal. And so, like I said, they designed it with mission goals in mind, but also the thing about James Webb is that just like Hubble, it's going to show us things that we didn't even know to ask. Questions that it'll show us answers to questions that we didn't even know were something that we wanted to know about the universe. So to start, though, James Webb is going to be able to show us some very detailed information about extrasolar planets. Planets outside of this solar system that orbit other stars, and James Webb is going to be able to look at those atmospheres and tell us, is there water vapor, is there carbon dioxide, is there methane? And because we'll be able to look at those planets, we'll be able to make an inference. We can't say for certain, but we can make an expectation, or what's the word that I'm looking for? Again, we can infer that those planets may be habitable. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's one of science and astronomy's biggest questions is, are we alone? And if not, where is the best place to look for life?
Yeah.
So James Webb was designed for that reason. It can look at the atmospheres and tell us exactly what those atmospheres are made of.
Okay, this might be a stupid question. I'll ask it anyways. So we put this thing out there, and it is orbiting, or is it just hanging out?
It doesn't actually really move much. So James Webb actually is in a location called the L2 Lagrangian point, and it's a place where...
If you folks don't know what that is, it's next to the L1 Lagrangian point. Turn left, down the street, about 100 million miles, and you'll hit the L2.
And then just keep going, and then you'll get to the L3.
Keep going till you see the 7-Eleven. Don't go into that one. It's dangerous. It's kind of like being in Detroit. You want to just go past that one. Hit the L2.
At the L2 point, the gravity of the sun, the moon, and the Earth are all equivalent. So it basically is not doing anything. It's just sitting in one spot.
Okay, so here's a different question, because I have a billion questions, apparently. Which direction is this going in? Is it going... Now, I think I'm thinking of a very simplistic view of our solar system. But are we sending this, say, closer to the sun? Are we sending this further away from the sun? Oh, he's got the computer out. Stumped him. Stumped him. Okay, while you're doing that, because apparently we're going to come back to that, I felt like I had another question. Oh, so you have a part here that says, why space telescopes? And I think the coolest one that you put on here was, light pollution is a big issue.
Yeah, it is. It's a big issue not just for astronomy.
Yeah.
But the brighter that the atmosphere is from light that leaks into the atmosphere from street lights and billboards and everything, the more light that we produce, and look up in the sky if you live in a city. In Calgary, we cannot see stars anymore.
No, what's one of my favorite things about Airdrie, actually, is that fairly much every night I can look up and see the stars.
That's right. And
I see the same stars you're looking at.
Together, I always know that we're together when I look up at those stars.
It's funny, I've heard that before, like, in songs and that shit, like, we're looking at the same moon. Like, fucking we're all looking at the same moon. Are you in love with all of us? Jesus
Maybe.
Christ. Well,
maybe.
Yeah. But then you were saying, because it's off of Earth, we can see wavelengths of light that are blocked or covered up by Earth's atmosphere.
That's right. So James Webb,
well, it is
like
right.
I said,
You put it here.
Doesn't mean it's right. Is anybody fact checking?
This is Trav Science Lab.
I just make this all up.
It's not even a fucking James Webb. That's like the name of an ex-NBA player. And you're like, we'll go with that one.
That'd be fun, actually. We should do that one time. Just make up science
and
stuff.
then at the end just be like, yeah, that was all bullshit. I'll start naming bones that aren't really things. The humeral Kincaid.
And I would be like, oh yeah, that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that one was right next to the electronizer. So, because we have an atmosphere, there's certain wavelengths that don't get in.
Think of it this way. If we didn't have an atmosphere that blocked certain wavelengths of light, as soon as you walked outside, you'd get skin cancer instantly from UVC, for instance.
Is that something that will happen on Mars?
Yeah, actually, potentially. Now, when I say it's going to happen instantly, no. It's just that those certain radiations are blocked. And I mean, that's a great thing for us because we don't get cancer from the sun regularly because UVC is the UV light that causes cancer in skin.
So we have UVA and UVB, correct?
And while it also causes cancer, less so than UVC.
But if you somehow stood on top of our atmosphere, you're shit out of luck.
That's part of the problem with human space travel.
Yes.
There's too much radiation in space.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we can't get around it. It's called a shield. Star Trek figured it out.
Well, and if fucking Kirk figured it out, we can figure it out.
So the thing is that with James Webb, we can't have a telescope like James Webb on Earth if we want to see what we want to see with James Webb. And James Webb's whole purpose, and again, like I said, we'll be able to see small planets that are Earth-sized, but also what we want to do is we want to see back to the beginning of the Big Bang. We want to see what stars looked like and what galaxies were forming, and the only way to do that is to see infrared light. The reason is because infrared light can actually pass through dust and gas. So the universe is filled with dust and gas. Mm-hmm. So when we look back, and this might blow some people's minds, but when we look back to the beginning of the Big Bang, we're actually looking back in time almost 14 billion years.
Yeah.
Because scientists have said that the universe is approximately 13.8 billion years, give or take a few hundred million.
And what's a few hundred million?
I mean, in the grand scheme of the universe,
just look in my wallet. Like, really, what's a few hundred million? I'll tell you what it is. It's something I don't have.
I'll tell you that. Me too. I wish.
I've got a lottery ticket, and it's not even for a few hundred million. Tens of millions, and I will not win it.
It would be enough, though.
Oh, it would be enough.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah. All I would do is this podcast. I don't even give a shit if people listen at that point.
Well, who cares?
I might not even tell people what it's called. I'll just talk to myself.
And then you could just stay naked all day in your room podcasting.
I don't want to see myself. No, if I had that much money, I would not want to see myself naked.
Wait, if you had that much money, you could fix what you looked like.
Nah.
Too much work.
Yeah.
Too much work.
Invasive. Surgery is surgery. There's no minor surgeries, people. Okay, so we put this thing out there, and then I just had a flashback to The Martian.
Yes.
Okay, big issue with that was he's on Mars, and it takes a long time for radio signals to get to and from. So when we send this thing out there, we will be receiving transmissions from it, and I assume trying to send things back. Do this, look this way.
That's right.
How long-ish might that take?
I can only guess because there's a 9-minute delay from Earth to the Sun.
Okay.
And I believe, I can't even remember, is it an hour or something to Mars? So the delay is going to be small. It might be a minute, 30 seconds, something like that.
So Hubble would be near instantaneous then?
That's right, yeah.
Wow.
Because those transmissions are going at the speed of light.
Wow. So, no, I'm not even going to do an analogy on that one. I'm out. I'm tired.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too.
No, I'll do it. No, I won't do it. Okay. I can't comprehend these things. So good luck to all the listeners. Not that I'm saying you're stupid. I'm just saying this is ridiculous.
So I was just saying about how we want to look at infrared light.
Gotcha.
Basically, it means that the pictures that come from James Webb are not going to look like Hubble Space Telescope pictures.
It'll be things we've never seen before.
And yes, and at the same time, it's not going to look very... I have to tread lightly saying this, but it's not going to look beautiful to your eye the way that Hubble does with all of its crazy colors, the blues and the reds and the purple and pink.
It will be more informative than that, would you say?
Yes, the amount of information that we're going to get is going to be significantly greater in just the infrared wavelength.
I'm going to try this. So it's like those old, wind-up cameras. And then click. Those ones?
Yes.
That is taking a picture of that. Look, that person is smiling. Versus now you have these DSLR cameras and that people go in, they take pictures, and then they go in and edit them and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Hubble is the edited version. Like, look how beautiful this wedding was.
Yep.
And the click is just the fucking information. We're getting the information. It's not pretty, but this is the true information.
Right. It won't be pretty to you or I,
no.
But it will be pretty to scientists who look at it and can tell us things that we don't know.
We're coining a new phrase. Intellectually beautiful.
I like it.
I know.
And it will be very beautiful. Ugh. Don't get me wrong.
The
problem is that when you talk about $10 billion telescope, which is way over budget, and was threatened to be canceled, I think in 2013.
Because you said they were going to launch it in 2010?
Well, so 2010 was their original plan, and then it got pushed to 2015, and then 2018.
And almost canceled at least once.
At least one time. And its original mission budget was $8.8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they went over that and had to go to Congress and get extra money. And when it comes to the United States Congress, they don't like just giving out money.
No.
When you're over budget.
No.
Especially when you're talking about a telescope.
Well, and it's even worse if you've got Mexicans on staff.
Well, absolutely, right? As if you're in a Trump era,
Zing.
Oh boy. Open a can of worms. Now, I do have to say one good thing about Trump, and that'll be about the only thing I have to say about him.
All over it.
Is that he loves the idea of space, and he actually coined a phrase that he wants to make a space force. I don't know if anybody heard that.
No. By that, does he mean a McDonald's in space? Because apparently he loves his McDonald's as well.
He does, but now he's not allowed to eat both parts of the bun. He has to only have half of the bun.
Yeah, that's going to fix a lot. That's going to fix the free world for sure.
Right? Yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ. So, way over budget. And I mean billions over budget.
Yeah, so like they now have said that it'll be about 10 billion, like I say. And in comparison, Hubble Space Telescope been out there for 28 years. It has probably cost about the same.
Yeah.
So 10 billion for that long.
Yeah.
So
and then the International Space Station is in the hundreds of billions, is it not?
Yeah, just probably over 100 billion.
So this is the way that I put these things. If we said, and I'll go back for a second, because when we were talking before we started recording, I was talking about how all of the telescopes on Earth, they basically share all that information with each other. Because like I was saying, if you put one telescope and look at the sky, it's like me looking at you and being like, don't worry about it. Everything behind me is okay. And there actually being a fucking clown behind me with a knife just about ready to slit my throat, right? If you can only see what's in front of you, you have no idea what's going on anywhere else.
Correct.
And behind me is not that important, but on the other side of the planet and in other directions in space is hugely important.
That's right.
So we all share that information. Science seems to be the only thing that we can all get along on and collaborate on. They're saying the International Space Station is the single greatest collaboration between countries ever done.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Okay, now I have to remember my point. Give me a second. Radio silence.
Or I'll just laugh for, some filler.
Thank you. Your laugh reminded me. So if we said the International Space Station, call it 100 billion. Hubble, call it 10 billion. James Webb, we're going to say it's going over budget even more, 12 billion. So we've got $122 billion, we'll say US dollars.
Yeah.
What if we just said, this is so important, the money doesn't matter? Can you understand what I'm saying there?
I do, yeah.
Money is something that we have completely made up. We've said, this egg is worth 2 of those grains of celery. Which we all know celery's worthless and it's disgusting, and eggs are way better. And I don't even like eggs that much. But you know what I'm saying? We're comparing. This is more important than this.
Yes.
So if we just said, this will potentially, by everything you've said, be the most important thing that's ever happened to humanity.
There's a good potential for that.
Although, the most important thing that ever happened was Trump and Kim Jong-un being like, no, we're cool.
And now they're buddies.
But they're fucking still doing nuclear testing. It doesn't matter.
What did you think was going to happen?
I know, yeah. I thought, seriously, one of them was going to rip the other one's wig off.
Oh, I was hoping.
Oh, God, everyone can hope.
I actually just wanted, Kim Jong-un to just, punch Trump in the face.
Gotcha!
Yeah, right?
Joke's on you!
Just, a quick one, right? Before any of the aides could get in the way.
Exactly. He's a fucking ninja. We never do it. If we could just say, the money doesn't matter. We're all just willing to put our resources into this. Can you imagine what would be possible if it wasn't just budget?
Oh, I think that's a really great question, because what could be possible? The fact is anything that you can think of could be possible.
Yeah.
Obviously within our current understanding of technology and science, because we can only make such big leaps at a time. We can't just go from A to Z. It just doesn't happen. Did I just say Z? Do we say Z in Canada or Z?
I say whatever I feel like saying.
That time was Z. So.
Yeah, it felt right.
Okay, so just even without talking about no budget, let's talk about take even half of America's budget that they spend on military.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense budget is over $600 billion a year.
A year, yeah.
I'm not talking about the 20 years that it took to build James Webb. We're talking in 1 year, America spends $600 billion. Mm-hmm. So and in comparison, NASA's budget is $18 billion. Mm-hmm. So take another 30 billion or 40 or 50 billion, or take all 600. And what do I see? I see way more space stations. I see people living on the moon. I see people walking around Mars. I see space telescopes, 10 times the size of James Webb.
And what I see is, coming back to the start of the podcast, because this is how this whole thing works, is no more need for oil and gas.
No, that's right, because we would have created technologies that would stop our need for oil and gas.
There's still, from what I've heard, it's iffy depending on who you ask, but there could still be time to recover the effects that have already happened from climate change.
Nobody knows, because unfortunately it's just our best guess.
Well, and it's like, it seems like compared to the James Webb project, and then past that, compared to, like you were just saying, the US's defense budget, the amount of money and time and labor that's being put into fighting the effects of climate change is like a kid playing in their fucking sandbox in the backyard and being like, I'm going to dig to China. Like, it's just...
I know, I see exactly
what you're saying. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
With a little plastic spade, and then they, like, get down to a rock, and they're like, I found it. No, it's nothing. It's a fucking rock. Stupid kid.
Well, and I think the thing is that we don't spend money on those important things, like, fighting the effects of climate change. Again, they moved past global warming, right? Yes, there's a warming trend, but really it's a climate change. Yeah. And the fact is that we've affected the climate.
Yeah.
We don't know how much, but we do know that human activity has affected the climate. So why are we not spending the money to figure out what we can do to fix it?
And this is where I'm glad that things like this project do exist, because who knows what they find out. And like we said, they're going to find answers to questions that we didn't even know were questions.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is such a cool thing about science, right? Eventually someone comes along and they say, because I did this research, now I've got this question, and we move along human history.
That's right. And you know what? The thing about science is that it's not always right either. No, so
it's not about
the misconception is that when I say that, the sky is blue, well, it is.
It's not to me.
But also maybe it's not, right? Exactly. Yeah. So that's a bad example, but...
It was a terrible example. You really fucked this up. Trav's Science Lab is now closed.
I'm off. See you guys. Ciao.
October 17th, Trav's Weed Lab.
That one might go better. Or it won't make any sense at all.
Not in the slightest. It would just be like, blah, 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 I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I hear the effects of marijuana.
This is what people tell me. Yeah.
I just listen to anything people tell me. Especially if it's on a podcast. So, this is the tough part I find about these talks is we can sit in this room and we basically agree on this thing.
Right.
I'm always interested in hearing the opposite side of that. I do want to hear why people say, let's not spend that budget, because there are people that say, let's spend that budget on Earth, right? On things like fighting global poverty and that.
Yeah.
And then I say, well, the numbers are out there saying that we could fight global poverty, except there's certain nations, North Korea, who just withhold food from their people, and that's why they're starving. There's plenty of food out there.
But you use North Korea as an example of global poverty when right next door to us in America...
I thought you were going to say Greenland.
Well, Greenland too, but look at the biggest country or I should say the most powerful country in the world, or the country that thinks they're the most powerful.
That's a great way to put it.
Doesn't give their people the basic necessities that they need. So the American dream is not actually an American dream at all.
No.
It's just a bunch of crap that they've spouted out, and now they don't even want people coming there anymore to live the American dream.
It's an interesting thing. I've heard someone said... They said it was like, America is the world's greatest ongoing project. You know what I mean? Yes. It's just like, let's see what happens. And, there's some good, there's some bad. It's just like this fucking little petri dish. I don't know what's going to happen.
I guess though, when you look at $10 billion, I hate to say it, but that money doesn't actually go very far when it comes to fighting global poverty.
No.
You need a lot more than $10 billion to fight poverty.
And when you say $10 billion, I understand that $10 billion sounds astronomical.
Sure it
does. But
does.
that's far less than some people have basically in their bank account.
It's crazy.
And we're sending something farther out into space than we can even comprehend.
And like you said, we touched upon the fact that we might find things that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
And that's the point. I can't answer the question of should it be spent here, because I don't believe that. I do believe that we should be able to fix all the problems on Earth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But one of the things that drives humanity and always has was the need to explore.
Yes.
And so again, when the Vikings came to the New World,
if they were the first ones.
If they were. But from what we know, they were the first, but who knows?
Yeah.
That's just ingrained in our DNA, is that we need to explore, and we've explored this planet.
Well, and I think this will be a good way to wrap the whole thing up, is sometimes this works out, and we come back to the name of the podcast, this imperfect image thing, which is just, why would you just be satisfied with what is? Like, why would you just be satisfied with spending the money here on Earth and that sort of thing? It's this idea of being different and saying, let's just try something new. Like, hey, maybe one day we'll try marijuana. Who knows? Right? Maybe one day. Maybe October 17th when it's legal in Canada.
Yeah, that'll be the first time.
But it's this, we don't have to just fit into this is how things are done. Because if you fall into this is how things are done, nothing ever gets better, and chances are it will just get stale and suck.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think that we will gain something from this.
Yeah.
It might not be a bunch of rich people or people that have food, but it'll be people that in the future will benefit from the knowledge that we have now.
I'm just hoping that all of this happens, we send this thing out there, it's sending information back, and what we figure out is better materials to make the next generation of Air Jordans. Because the whole world is about fashion and looking good.
Well, you can't argue that.
Fuck. Okay, that's depressing. Let's end it there. Thanks for coming on. We'll do this again, but maybe we'll actually have the co-host next time.
Sounds good.
It'll just be us.
Thanks for having me.
So we can look forward to next time on Trav Science Lab, now that we've named it. Maybe we'll get shirts. I was joking about that. We should have merchandise, because we come up with great ideas sometimes.
I think that's a good idea.
Like this t-shirt brought to you by, and then we'll have little logos on it. Right?
I want a Frisbee, right? Trav Science Lab Frisbee, just because it's kind of spacey, you know?
I'm in. Like
UFO.
the light-up Frisbees that we bring camping.
Oh, man. For anybody who has not seen these Frisbees, light up Frisbee in the dark, wearing...
everyone has to wear glow sticks so you can see them.
You don't know who it is you're throwing to.
No.
Well, unless you know the color, but...
I don't know the color.
Oh,
it's all a mystery to me. Okay, thanks for listening. That's episode 18. We'll be back one day with episode 19, and I'll try not to cry on that one. Bye-bye.